going to tell you a story. I'm 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 going to tell you a story.
Aurora Wasteland Quarantine by Vaughn Ashby. Episode 8. The threat of enduring an eternal suffering is entirely possible. Intro from the narrator. After a year of agony and frustration, the world started to see sunlight again. A vaccine for the virus was developed and tested. Multiple vaccines, actually. The world collectively let out a sigh of relief. After enduring deniers, liars, and brainwashed Fox News watchers, the world was ready to come to its senses, roll up its sleeves, and move on. But it wasn't without cost. Millions around the globe died. The numbers can't be understated. With all the lockdowns, face masks, and other measures taken, there was still millions of people killed by the virus. In the coming years, the actual death toll will start to come out. It's likely there will be a few dictators and shitheads around the world lying about things. Science always wins. Because science doesn't give a fuck about you. The virus is still the virus. Burying your head in the sand doesn't make the virus cease to exist. It just gets your mouth full of sand and dookie. I'm tired. Did I mention that? I am ready to be done with it all. The second wave rolled right into the third. And well, it's almost my time. My number has been pulled, and now I know how this is going to play out for me. Life around the world is stepping slowly back to normal. Every shot in the arm is a middle finger to the virus that has been the most unpleasant dick to use. This is my story, the end of my quarantine research. After this, I don't know what I'll work on. Times will change. There will be new, strange, and weird things to explore. The Aurora Wasteland is still out there. But I have to be honest. I've been putting these ideas out, and since I started, weird stuff has started happening to me. I glanced into the Aurora Wasteland, and something looked back. Something took notice. Police report. Okay, there isn't one. I'm not fucking worthy. At least not yet, I'm not. The story. I took, well, nothing. This is my story. You can't read the police reports, cannot connect it to other sources, cannot cross-reference it with the Aurora Wasteland website, and well, let me know what you figure out because, well, you'll see. Below is the story, my story, I was able to piece together. I am the narrator. I do have a name, but it doesn't matter what it is. Like I said before, I'm an Aurora Wasteland researcher. Well, at least lately I've been. I've been home for months. I picked up the hobby of looking into the strange and weird, which the virus has brought out its fair share of. But it's over. Or well, it's supposed to be. Where to start? How about the end? It makes the most sense. It was the day. The day we've all been waiting for. The day I was supposed to get my shot. I would get to roll my sleeves up and join the vaccinated herd. I couldn't wait to be on the other side. Well, only a year. I remember it feeling like this whole thing had gone on for decades. No, centuries. Time during the virus was strange. I threw my coat, my mask, and shoes on, grabbed my wallet, and headed for the door. But as I reached for the handle, I had a strange feeling. I felt like something was watching me, like something was staring back at me, even though it was something I didn't understand. I shrugged it off as paranoia, turned the knob, and stepped through my front door, only to find I stepped right back into my house. I could still see the outside world. Cars drove by, there were clouds in the sky. The world existed, and my stupid brick of a phone was lying on my front porch as if it was allowed to leave. Again, I stepped through my front door, only to again step right back into my house. The outside world still waiting for me. I've read a lot about paranormal phenomena, but I haven't read about this. I didn't know what to call this. I waved to the couple next door as they walked past my house. I think they saw me, but honestly, They've been kind of dicks since I put the taller fence up. I checked my watch. The time for my appointment was getting closer. I tried the front door a few more times, all with the same result. Step outside and end up right back inside. As weird as it was, I was used to weird now. So I tried my back door, and then the garage door. No luck. Next up was the windows. I had two that opened on the main floor. I climbed out both and ended up back inside my house on my hands and knees. I broke one of the other windows that didn't open, and well, I really wish I hadn't because I ended up back inside anyways. I checked my watch again. If I left now, I'd be able to make it in time. My house has 2 levels. I sprinted up to the second floor, opened the window in my bedroom, and I climbed out onto the roof and ended up back in my bed. I'm not really one to give up. At least I like to think of myself that way. So I went to my attached garage, grabbed a large hammer I'd used to put up my fence, then returned back to the house. Picked a wall I was sure didn't have any plumbing in it and started smashing a hole through to the outside. The hole took way longer to make than I'd expected. By the time I had one large enough for me to fit through, I was sweating, and I had long missed my appointment. Worst of all was, I ended up back in the house again after I climbed through. I stood in the middle of my living room defeated as the wind blew through the new hole. I stared at it, the hole that is, watching the world continue on without me. I almost wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I hadn't since this all started. The virus, that is. I think maybe I'm just repressing things, thoughts and worries. Or maybe the Aurora Wasteland and all its terror and strangeness has jaded me to the world. I watched as a white spider the size of a quarter crawled its way through the fresh hole and down the wall. There are few things in life that the human race can agree on. Spiders are gross to the max is one of them. They should all die of their grossness. I, like everyone else in the world, agreed and quickly brought my foot down on the spider. I pressed down so hard that I imagined the atoms around the spider compressing, killing it, driving it down, but that's not exactly what happened. Yes, I did manage to kill the spider, but that was only the beginning. Well, I guess the door was the beginning. Well, technically, the end, or whatever. As I raised my foot, a cluster of spiders escaped from beneath it and scattered in every direction. I wanted to yelp. My brain told me to scream, but I just stared at what I'd witnessed. I squished one spider and managed to create dozens more. Was the big spider pregnant? Was it some sort of spider death cloning thing? Whatever it was fucking gross. I watched as the tiny spiders skittered away and found new hiding places around my house. It was then and there that I decided I needed to burn the house to the ground. If there were no walls, then I could just step out freely. Plus, it would kill the spiders. As I turned to grab a gas can and lighter from my garage, I noticed something strange at my front door. At first, I tried not to look, but it was too hard. There were too many of them. I ran to the front door. With my hands on the frame, I peered outside. Hanging from the houses across the street were dozens of bodies. They swayed in the wind. I was mostly certain they weren't real. I would have seen them only seconds ago, but I hadn't. So they had to be fake. The ropes around their necks creaked in the wind. A tear streamed down my cheek. There were so many of them. What was happening to me? Had the Aurora Wasteland cracked me? Cracked my brain? I had to get out of the house, and I was running out of options. I sprinted to the basement, which was unfinished. The cold dirt floor felt nice against my feet. I could feel my heart pounding through them. I didn't care about getting my shot anymore. Well, I did, but not at that moment. I just needed to get out. I dropped to my hands and knees and dug. I started in the middle of the room, which, looking back, was stupid. Where was I going to dig? China? Eventually, I smartened up and started digging from the nearer corner. The further I dug, the clearer my brain felt. I didn't need to get out of the house. I just needed to turn off whatever was keeping me in. There had to be something strange going on below my house. I was sure of it. And then I found a hole. Maybe it was more of a cave? I hadn't expected it. Descending down below my house, I had no objection to climbing down into it. Excited at the thought, I climbed down the opening and into the tunnel. I've been told to add a disclaimer here by the Aurora Wasteland. Don't climb down into holes. The outcome is always bad. When I asked for clarification on the whole bad thing. They simply replied with, "It would be bad." So there you have it. Don't climb down into holes, because it would be bad. Only for myself, it wasn't bad. It was disappointing for one, confusing for another. The tunnel ended at the edge of the house. There was, in fact, nothing exciting buried below my house, and as far as I could tell, the tunnel ended right at the edge of where I considered my house to be. And from there, the further I dug, the more I seemed to get nowhere. So much so that I paused and sprinted to the garage to get my shovel, only to be distracted by the TV as I passed it. Panting, dirty, and out of breath, I stared at the TV screen. I didn't remember leaving it on. Rosario, the red-haired newswoman anchor, was talking about how her co-anchor had disappeared. No one seemed to be believing her. Her frustration was evident as her tone shifted to anger. Confused, she looked around the new studio. She kept screaming about how there was nowhere he could have gone, and how did no one notice this? Then, almost like a blink, she was gone. I patted my pocket looking for my phone, only to remember it was sitting on the front porch, just out of reach. I rubbed my eyes. What had I been doing? Was I really trying to dig a hole out of my house? Why didn't I try my computer? I made my way to my office. My legs and arms were killing me from the whole hoopla. I logged in and pulled up my messenger app. My buddy from work, Steven, had messaged me. He knew I was getting the shot today and said that if I was feeling ill after, that I should pick up a new video game, Elysium. He had sent me a free promo code for it, said I'd love it, that you can do whatever you want in the game, and then went on to tell me how the game was so damn good. I sighed as I checked when he'd sent it. It had been 3 hours ago. My fingers hovered over the keys. If I told him that I was trapped in my house, he might have me committed, but maybe that was a good thing. Maybe I was losing my grasp on reality. I closed my eyes as I considered what to send him. I had to word it just right. Tears streamed down my face. I'd read a lot of strange and weird things. Honestly, it was kind of fun. But when it's happening to you, well, the whole thing takes on a different meaning. A hand touched my shoulder. I opened one eye through my tears to see a woman standing there. She was wearing a black dress. Her eyes were glowing white, and blackness like tar was rippling up her neck from her dress. She smiled at me. I smiled back. Around the room I could see spiders, the white ones from before. I got to my feet and rubbed my eyes. This time I opened the other eye only to see a man in her place. He looked almost the same as she did, just a suit instead of a dress. I switched eyes again. The woman was back. She smiled at me again. I preferred her to the man. As I stared into her glowing eyes, it was like we were talking without talking. The furniture in my office vanished, and the walls on the inside of the house vanished. The woman tugged at my hand and led me down the hall towards the only piece of furniture left, my bed. She helped me in and ran her fingers through her hair. I thought of my kids and my wife. I thought of the board games we played together. Did I have kids? A wife? As if from the heavens, static from a radio filled the air. It was like someone was fine-tuning the radio dial. Then a newscaster echoed around the empty house. She talked about the virus. How it was spreading. How no one believed it was even real. How the radio clicked off as the woman rested her hand on my chest. I felt warm and comforted. I felt like I understood the virus. The pandemic. All of it. There was something bigger at work. Something created this virus and picked this moment to release it. Whatever it was, it had to do very little. The world was primed for this. It waited for this moment in history to take advantage of us. It wanted us dead. A large percentage of the human race was doing exactly what it wanted. I closed my eyes and drifted off to sleep. I could feel the world around me changing, rearranging itself. And here's the thing. I didn't care. I was content where I was. I was worried of everything slipping away. The worry of everything slipping away. When I woke up, both the man and the woman were standing there. Their glowing eyes gazed at me through sympathy. My house was gone, and the world I knew was gone. A black, viscous liquid flowed above and beyond me. It was thick like tar. I think it was alive, because I could feel it calling me. It wanted me to just get up and jump in, but I didn't. I smiled and waved at the two glowing-eyed people. They both waved back. I asked them if I can have one last go around, and without hesitation, they said yes. Then I was back in a body. There was no snap or sudden shift. I was there, as if I'd always been there. I was cold. There was snow. And I stepped on a spider. I was at home building something, a doorway of sorts. I pulled another version of myself through one of the doors. I was making eggs. They tasted so good. I thought of the woman that had left them for me. I was driving my kids out to see my mom. I'd lost my job for some reason. God, my kids are amazing. I was in a bathroom. I was a man, then a woman. Then it didn't matter. I was trapped there. I was crammed into a small room. During a job interview, someone vanished. I was lying on my back, looking up into the ash-filled sky. Then I'm back in my house, eventually the bed. The two glowing-eyed people are staring at me again, and just like the last time, I ask to go around again. Newspaper headlines. NDE breakthrough at University of Alberta, Edmonton Epoch. Near-death experience team gets research grant from NASA, Brightness Falls Gateway. NDE device begins beta testing, Calgary Science Digest. Aurora Wasteland researcher volunteered for NDE trials, Aurora Wasteland newsletter. NDE device to be fast-tracked due to the virus, Lethbridge, Dark Times. Notes from the NDE team. The patient who refers to himself as the narrator was diagnosed with the virus during its third wave. As it became apparent that he was not going to survive, he volunteered for Indigo's near-death experience, or NDE machine. Indigo's machine had been fast-tracked to test on virus patients in hopes of capturing their final seconds. The machine is able to hack the human mind and capture the dying patient's last few seconds. There is a theory that the last moments of consciousness before death can feel like an eternity. One where your mind can create entire realities, from blissful to horrifying. So, in a way, the threat of enduring eternal suffering is entirely possible. These stories are extracts taken from the narrator's mind as he looped around, spending what we can only perceive as eternity, reliving them over and over again.
Hey, my name is Vaughn Ashby. I wrote this. If you liked what you heard, head on over to VaughnAshby.com/free and pick up a free novel or a bunch of other free stuff. Go explore the Aurora Wasteland yourself at AuroraWasteland.com. Don't forget to check out the Stories from the Wasteland podcast and search for Vaughn Ashby on YouTube for video versions and other exciting videos. Thanks for listening.